Hi, in this video we look at how we factorize quadratics. So in our introduction we highlighted the fact that we actually have four important values when it comes to quadratic equations. The first one being the y-intercept, which is the c value, and then we had two x-intercepts, which are going to happen sometimes but not every time, and then we have a minimum point. So today we're going to focus on how we can find the x-intercept with factorization. Now this is one of three main techniques that we learn to find the x-intercepts, and to illustrate this, here's a quadratic equation. You notice that this equation is low enough that it crosses the x-axis. It crosses at -1, 0 on the left and at 6, 0 on the right. And so with a good factorization technique, we should be able to take y equals x squared minus 5x minus 6, factorize it, and find those 2 points. Let's look at how we expand brackets. We can use a FOIL technique to expand double bracket expressions. And the FOIL technique is first, outer, inner, last. And so the way that it goes is that if you have x plus 1 multiplied by x plus 2, what you would do here is x times x, which is x squared, x times 2, which is the outer, so we do the first, x times x, then the outer, x times 2, and then the inner, which is 1 times x, and then the last, which is 1 times 2, so just the numbers. And if we do this, well, x times x is x squared, x times 2 is 2x, 1 times x is x, and 1 times 2 is 2. Now, you're not allowed to mix x squares with anything other than x squares. You're not allowed to mix x's with anything other than x's, and numbers go with numbers. But you'll notice in the middle here that you have 2x plus x, which can go together. So 2x's plus 1x's is actually 3x's, and so we can combine those two sections in the middle and put them together. This is going to become quite important. So if we look at another example here, x plus 2 times x plus 3, using the FOIL technique again, x times x will be x squared, x times 3 will be 3x, 2 times x will be 2x, and 2 times 3 will be 6, which gives you a simplified expansion of x squared plus 5x plus 6. I recommend you try doing these out on your own as well so that you can practice your FOIL expansions. In this case, we have a negative value in the first bracket, x minus 2 times x plus 3. Our technique doesn't change, so we'll do x times x, x times 3, negative 2 times x, negative 2 times 3. So x times x is x squared, x times 3 is 3x, negative 2 times x, so a negative number times a positive number is going to be negative 2x, and negative 2 times positive 3, again, a negative times a positive is negative, is going to be the negative number 6. And so in the middle, you will have 3x minus 2x, and 3 minus 2 is 1. So in this case, you're left with x squared plus a single x, and then minus the number 6. Now looking at a situation where we have two negative values, negative 2 and negative 3, we can still use our technique and be confident that we can apply it. X times x is x squared, x times negative 3 is minus 3x, negative 2 times x is negative 2x, and negative 2 times negative 3, so a negative times a negative, be careful, gives you a positive, and 2 times 3 is 6, so this will give you x squared minus 3x minus 2x plus 6. Now, minus 3 minus 2 is actually negative 5 because you're at negative 3 and you're going more into the negatives. So be careful with this. I see a lot of mistakes here. So make sure that you know that you go from negative 3 to negative 5 by subtracting negative 2 here. And so our completed expansion is x squared minus 5x plus 6. So here's an idea. Can we shortcut the expansion? Well, we can use a technique which we call the sum and product technique. And so as you see here, when you have x plus 1 times x plus 2, yes, you can do the expansion that we just did, but you could realize that 1 plus 2, which is the sum, so sum in mathematics means adding, gives you the 3 in the middle. And you could realize that 1 times 2, which is the product means multiplying, gives you the 2 at the end. So the sum of 1 and 2 is 3x, and the product of 1 and 2 is 2. And so now when you look at x plus 2 times x plus 3, the sum of 2 and 3 is 5, which is the 5x in the middle, and the product of 2 and 3 is 6, which is the 6 at the end. So can we use this technique with negative numbers? Well, when you do the sum of 2 and negative 3, so 2 plus negative 3, you get negative 1, which is negative x. And when you do the product of 2 and negative 3, which means the multiplication of 2 and negative 3, you get negative 6, because a positive times a negative is a negative number. So the product, 2 times negative 3, is negative 6. And so using this technique still works when you have negative numbers. Now, what if you have two negative numbers? Well, it's the same technique. So negative 2 plus negative 3 is negative 5, and negative 2 times negative 3 is positive 6. So this is how you can shortcut the expansion side. And shortcutting the expansion side is going to be essential in order for you to shortcut and factorize accurately, which is what we're going to look at now. So can we reverse this idea? Well, yes, we can. We use the same product and sum technique. So if you look at a quadratic here, which is x squared plus 3x plus 2, look at the last number, which is 2. And think to yourself, okay, well, this 2 is the product of two numbers. Now, the product means the two numbers were multiplied. 2 is a prime number, and it is the product of 2 and 1. It is also the product of negative 2 and negative 1. But you see the 3x in the middle is positive. So we're only going to concern ourselves here with 2 and 1. And so the product is either 1 times 2 or negative 1 times negative 2. But 1 times 2 will be absolutely perfect. And so this factor pair adds up to 3, because the other factor pair adds up to negative 3. If you do negative 1 plus negative 2, you get negative 3. And so you can factorize your quadratic immediately here and say, okay, 1 and 2 is good. And so this is actually equal to x plus 1 factor of x plus 2. And this is how you factorize a quadratic just by looking at it. The product and sum technique. Let's look at another one here. So here is another quadratic, which we've looked at before, x squared plus 5x plus 6. Now 6 has more factors than 2 did, because 6 has factors, let's see, 1 and 6 or 2 and 3. Again, we're just looking at the positive factors. The only reason why we're just looking at the positive factors is because the 5x in the middle is positive. And so yes, we could also look at combinations of negative 1 and negative 6, negative 2 and negative 3. But really, because the 5 is positive, we're just adding extra work for ourselves. So here we're going to look at 1 and 6. And if we add 1 to 6, we get 7. That's not really what we want. However, if we add 2 and 3, we get 5. And that's pretty cool, because that's exactly what we want in the middle. So this is x squared plus 5x plus 6. And so we're going to choose 2 and 3 as our factor pair that adds up to 5. And so our factorization looks a little bit like this: x plus 2 multiplied by x plus 3. Let's look at another one here. What if we had x squared minus x minus 6? Now, negative 6 is a negative number. And so in order for you to have a negative number, you need to have one positive and one negative number. Two numbers multiplied by each other will only give you a negative value if one is positive and one is negative. So your factor pairs here are still going to be 1 and 6 and 2 and 3, but one has to be positive and one has to be negative. And so we can actually have 4 factor pairs which might work here: 1 and negative 6, or negative 1 and 6, or 2 and negative 3, or negative 2 and 3. So we have to explore all these options. What is 1 plus negative 6? It's negative 5. No good. What is negative 1 plus 6? It's 5. No good. What is 2 plus negative 3? It's negative 1. Okay, that's the one we're going to choose. So the third option here, 2 plus negative 3, is going to give us the negative 1 we need in the middle. So the factor pair which adds up to negative 1 is 2 and negative 3, and so you can factorize your quadratic as x plus 2 factor of x minus 3. And you can check: 2 plus negative 3 is negative 1, 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. This definitely works. Let's look at another example here, x squared minus 5x plus 6. So this is an interesting one because 6 is positive, so naturally we're going to think about 2 and 3 or 6 and 1, but these are going to add up to positive numbers, and we want negative 5 in the middle. So we have to look at negative numbers multiplied by each other, which give you positive 6. Because remember, a negative times a negative is a positive. So our factor pairs are going to be either 1 and 6 or 2 and 3, but these are no good because they don't add up to negative 5. Or negative 1 and negative 6, which will multiply to 6, but they add up to negative 7. Or you could also have negative 2 and negative 3, which multiply to 6 and add up to negative 5. So this time we're going to choose the fourth option, and that factor pair adds up to negative 5, negative 2 times negative 3. And so your bracketed form is going to be x minus 2 times x minus 3. And so with this is how we use the factorization technique to factorize quadratic equations. See you on the next video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Press the notification bell. Ding! Thank you.